Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it is time for part 2 of the Monday Q&As. So let's get to the first question. Hi Jason, I've been enjoying making a lot of progress on your novice program over the last year. Been bulking for a year. But now I've decided I want to cut down a bit, lose a bit of excess fat I've put on. Was wondering if you would make any modifications to your novice program for someone who is cutting rather than bulking. If you look in the description of every single video I have on this page, I have a link to the page hosted at Muscle and Fitness for my novice program. In the fact there are the modifications to use it as a cutting program. And they are as follows. You reduce all the 5x5s to 3x5s, so you do 3 sets instead of 5. You cut all the 3x8s down to 2x8s, so you drop 1 set of those. You cut the progression rate in half. So rather than try to add weight every time you do a lift, you add weight every second time you do a lift. And the reason for it being, you simply do not need as much workload to maintain muscle, or even for a novice to progress in a caloric deficit than you do in a surplus. So there's no point in doing that much workload, and you're not going to gain the extra muscle from the workload anyways in the deficit. And then it saves you more energy to focus on doing cardio and other things that are going to help you burn through more calories on your cut. And in fact, for a lot of people, even on the novice program, you may be able to cut on whatever you stalled at on your last bulking calories just by adding 500 or 600 calories of cardio a week. So 2 or 3 cardio sessions a week thrown in on your off days may actually allow you to go ahead and cut while maintaining your calories. So that's generally what I advise. All right, next question. Are genetic potential calculators like KC Butts that take into account your height, wrist, and ankle measurements accurate? Now, I need to point out that the individual who wrote this is someone I've met in person. This is someone who interacts with a lot of other YouTube channels. He's here in the UK. This is a person who has gained a massive amount of muscle mass in a very, very short period of time, so much to the point that he's worried about these calculators. And I know that's why he wants to know, because he has basically gained as much muscle in 2 years as a lot of guys gain in 6 or 7. And he's actually worried about hitting his genetic potential. He's among the genetic elite. And I will be honest with him. Yes, you're going to hit your genetic potential very, very fast because of your genetics. And yes, those charts are very accurate as far as final potential. Very, very, very few drug-free lifters are ever going to go over a fat-free mass index of about 24. And I don't think anyone is going to exceed what charts like Casey Butt and similar people have put out say they're going to be able to reach. Now, for someone who is among the genetic elite, it means they started off with either a lot of muscle or they gained muscle very, very fast compared to other people. You should be happy because you're going to reach those limits much quicker. You're not going to have to take 10 years to do it. And that's something I think people forget. And it's something that I've noticed when people comment and debate with me in the comments. Most people seem to be extremely ignorant of epigenetics and genetic components to limiting muscle growth. And I hate to tell people, but we all ultimately have the potential for any given size frame to gain the same amount of muscle mass, irrespective of what your nationality, race, genetics, or family are. It's pretty much irrelevant in regards to total muscle mass. What's going to make the difference as far as how you look is genetic, because you can't change genetic shape of muscles, insertion points. I mean, someone with a lower insertion bicep is going to look like they have bigger biceps than someone with higher insertions, even if they measure the same. So insertion points matter, skeletal structure and shape all matter, but the actual size you're going to reach isn't determined by your genetics. It is determined by the size of your frame. And people will say, no, well, this guy got bigger faster. And yeah, they got bigger faster due to better genetics. But this is where epigenetics come in. It means that their genes for maximum muscle growth were either turned on when they were conceived, or they turned on at an earlier point in their life due to environmental stress. And so for those people, they go into weight training with most of those genes for maximum muscle growth already expressed and active. Everyone has those genes. It's a common trait to the human species. It's that for many people, those genes are dormant and turned off, and it takes environmental stress to turn them on. And what that ultimately means is that someone who has all of those genes expressed already is going to gain muscle very quickly in their first few years, and they're going to peak out pretty much. Whereas in someone else, they're going to turn on more slowly. They'll still get reduced gains over time, but they're going to be able to sustain gains for more years, and it might take them 5 years, 10 years, 12 years to reach the maximum amount of muscle that their frame will hold without drugs. But the frame is ultimately going to limit it. But remember that someone with better genetics for insertions and structure is going to look bigger, more aesthetic, and more impressive than someone with a different set of genetics, even carrying the exact same amount of muscle tissue and size. But for this individual, having met him in person, yeah, he's big as hell for a natural, and he's done it in a really short period of time. And this goes back to having those genes expressed earlier in life, and that person was able to just max out their muscle very quickly. But he's going to stall out in the very near future because he looks like he's approaching the natural limits for his frame. All right, last question in part 2. How to increase speed of squats on your 5x5. Added 40 kilos to my squat, but it's such a slower movement compared to before. I want to regain that tempo. Well, I would say don't worry about that tempo. The Novice 5x5 that I have is a bodybuilder program, not a powerlifter program. You shouldn't be concerned that much with maximum bar acceleration as long as you're still getting stronger. I wouldn't worry about it. Now, when you finish the Novice program and you've maxed out the gains from the Novice program and say you're squatting 140 kilos for 5 sets of 5, then you can go back and work on a program to help you regain speed with things like pause squats, speed squats, and other stuff that you want to use to speed that up. But for now, I wouldn't worry about it. It's not going to hurt your Novice gains for you to just keep progressing. And the fact is, since the weight's getting heavier, you are going to slow down a bit. You're not going to be able to accelerate the weight as fast. It's just part of getting stronger. And again, once you've peaked out those gains, if you want to branch over towards a little more power training and focus on a faster speed, then do that. But don't do it right now while you're in the middle of making your noob gains off the Novice program still. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.